Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Code and Coffee Show. I can even tell you that this is the last episode of the year. And today we are going to set sails to a bit unknown territory to me. But luckily, I have Santosh with me, so he will explain me quite a bit. So we will talk about Angular because everyone heard about Angular. At some point, it was very popular. Then things happened like Angular 2. And after this, it was ups and downs. And lately, people started talking again about that Angular is cool, Angular is great. And I thought, yeah, I know this guy. I know Santosh. Let's make a session together. Maybe he will explain me and also you why it's worth to give it a try. And Santosh is a senior software engineer at Celonis. He is a Google developer expert for Angular, GitHub Star, NX Champion, and an Auth0 Ambassador, a long list of titles. He loves contributing to Angular and its ecosystem. He's a co-founder of This Is Learning. He's also the author of Ngx-Builders package and part of the NestJsAddOns core team. He's also running This Is Tech Talks talk show, where he invites industry experts to discuss different technologies. Oh my, this was, I must say, I think this was the longest introduction we had, so really kudos for this.
Oh, I was like, okay, this is the shortest one, I thought.
I mean, you collected quite a lot of titles, so it's really amazing to and I really believe that this was the kind of shorter version, right? Because we could go longer.
For sure.
Yes, but before we will dive into Angular and how amazing it is, do you like coffee?
For sure. I mean, I try to like avoid it, like, but yeah, there are situations that, of course, I need coffee. For example, today, I was like so tired, then I just had to take a coffee and then start working. And yeah, I'm still feeling tired. Like probably I'll go to bed early today.
So you're kind of this example of this coffee to code machine, right?
Mm. Exactly. There are days I can go without coffee, but there are days I just need coffee.
Oh, I fully understand this. And tell me, what is your favorite type
Uh,
of coffee, or maybe origin?
okay, so I'm not like an expert like you in coffee, so I just like try to um, just black coffee. That's what I take. So because of course like milk and sugar, I try to avoid. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially sugar. So I just take my coffee black. That's it.
That's it.
And
Okay, I get it. I get it. And do you prefer when it is a bit on the, I don't know, nutty or chocolate side, or when it's a bit more fruity?
oh no, I think it's more on the chocolate side. So
Mhm.
not the fruit one. I've never tried it. To be frank,
Okay.
I don't know how it
Okay.
looks tastes like or something.
I mean, remember, the good news is that every guest here gets 2 packages of great specialty coffee.
Oh,
So soon you will have a chance to try, and I will remember to send you one that will be the as fruity as possible, so you
oh,
can finally have a chance. Uh, if I remember correctly, you live in Germany, and in Germany is a really great place when it comes to those amazing roasteries and coffee places. Do you have some near you?
I mean, so I live in a village, so it's like there is only one coffee place nearby. But I think I just went there only once to
Mhm.
when I was living alone. So I just went there only once. So yeah, but like there are, I've heard about other places where there are pretty good coffees. For example, there are places in Berlin I never went to, but I've heard about it. So probably next time.
So yeah, if we'll ever have a chance to meet you in Berlin, you can. I mean, we can do a small coffee tour together because really Five Elephants, the barn are really amazing, and it's really worth trying it at least once because this is an experience. This is really an experience. They're doing an amazing job when it comes to when it
Interesting
comes to
because I
coffee.
I think I went to like a lot of conferences, but never went like never met coffee expert or someone who was like, okay, let's go for a coffee. So people are like, okay, let's go for a drink or let's go for food. That's what we do. But
And
yeah.
this is the cool part about the barn, and you would really enjoy it because they also make coffee drinks,
Oh, okay.
both virgin and alcoholic. So those are also really amazing. When I was there, this was one of the things I wanted to try, especially and that it was summer. It was really hot, and yeah, it was a very pleasant experience. So this is one of those things for which I will remember Berlin as a great place. There were some others that I didn't enjoy that much, but the coffee places were tremendous. So yeah. So yeah, we are kind of set to that. The next time we'll meet somewhere, yeah, we will go for a small tour. We can try something new together. But yeah, let's talk about Angular because this is kind of the reason why we are here. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I know that Angular exists, and I know that it's a framework, a JS framework, and this is kind of most what I know about. Could you kind of explain for people like me who, yeah, almost don't, what is Angular?
Okay, so it's like, of course, Angular is like TypeScript first framework. So when it was launched back in 2014 with like Angular 2.0. So the first version was 16 to 14. 2014 was the year they said that they will start working on a new framework. And people got disappointed because, of course, uh, yeah, Angular JS was there, right? So as you mentioned in the start, yeah, there was a good pickup by the framework. For example, Angular JS, like it was used by many, and then they said, okay, they will work on Angular 2.0. So they said, okay, they will be using TypeScript, and people were like really against it because they don't wanted to use TypeScript. So people were like, yeah, we need JavaScript. And but Angular team like went with TypeScript, and they came up with first version, which was Angular 2.0. I think that was, I would say, a marketing mistake which they did. Probably they should have actually done something else because people got confused between Angular JS and Angular. And of course, 2016 happened, 2.0 came in, and then of course, like now Angular team has this release cycle they have been following since 2016. So every 6 months they do a major release. So it's like okay, now currently the version which is available is Angular 17, right? And it's a framework, so you don't have to like bring anything else, right? For example, like if you need router, if you need forms, so framework has everything, whatever you need. Even to make API calls, like you don't need to reach out to anything else. Angular has its own library for handling API calls. So everything is like baked into the framework apart from state management solution, which is like, of course, it depends upon you. Like if you want to use the Angular's default way of doing state management, or there are some libraries which are available, which are more famous, like for example, NGRX, which is used by a lot of companies I have worked with. And so for state management, people reach out to us. Anything else, otherwise, like everything is built and baked into the framework. You have like functionalities like dependency injection from day one. Like it was already available in Angular JS, so it's not something new which is in Angular, but yeah, it was already. It's like Angular is one of the only framework which has Angular dependency injection because it's pretty famous. If you talk about dependency injection with Java and .NET developers, that they get excited because they have been using it since long time. Right? Even when I was doing .NET, of course, I was using dependency injection daily, like as part of writing code. And the same concept was in Angular as well, so you don't have to worry about how you're injecting your services. And it's like all baked into the framework. And yeah, and they unlike other frameworks, like Angular had a compiler from day one. So it's like, of course, you don't have to worry about any configuration until unless you want to override it, which is just, I would say, very rare, where people go ahead and write their own configuration. But there are cases where people want to, for example, module federation or micro frontends. Apart from that, like everything is available. A compiler is available, which takes care of all the configuration. So Earlier, like Angular was using Webpack, but it's a progressive framework. So the Angular team also adopts to the latest technology which is out there. So when it started, Angular was, I think, the first first framework to come up with support for Webpack. So it was like, okay, you have Webpack under the hood, and then I think CRE came later on, if I'm not wrong.
Mhm.
CR also had this, right, where you have Webpack and it is already created for you. And but Angular took a different path. It says, okay, the all the configuration is hidden because the main motto like of Angular team is developers should focus on code, not the configuration. So
Mhm.
that has been rules that from day one. I mean, not the day one because Angular 2.0 had like you had to actually do the configuration, but after that, like they do everything like hide all the configuration, give you JSON file where you can actually define your options, like not configuration, but yeah, you can override some options or add more options if you want to. So now Angular is using, for example, it was of course for a longer period of time people use Webpack, and now people realize that there are better build tools. Like right, in JavaScript, every other day there is a
Every other day, yes. The moment when I adopt something, it turns out that I'm already using something obsolete because it's already week old. So yeah.
exactly. So either there is a new framework or there is a new build tool. So of course now you have ES build, you have wait, you have so many other things. RS pack, this pack, that pack. So it keeps coming. So Angular team, like of course now last year there was a huge actually talk in the community like Angular is not moving forward. I mean, we are not adopting the new tools, and then Angular don't want to rush, because that's one more thing which actually I like about Angular. They don't rush and adopt things. For example, okay, this is the new tool, let's go ahead and use it, because Angular has a uh, your their own compiler, right? So in case they
Mhm.
adopt a new tool, it means like adding that to the compiler, and it can either go wrong or it can go good, right? That's the only two options you have when once you are experimenting with new tool. So they took their time and they spoke to a lot of people out there. They spoke to ES build team, they spoke to feed team, and then they came up with solution that okay, now how we can use. They actually figured out that ES build is the best tool right now for Angular,
Mhm.
and they adopted ES build. So now Angular 16 had ES build as an experimental tool, and now it's 17 stable. And we also use Vite now. So Angular also use Vite for server-side rendering because the life server provided by Vite is very fast. So it's moving ahead, I would say. Of course, there was a time, as you said, like you heard it, then there was silence, and then now people are has started talking about again. So yeah, all these new improvements to the framework, which is making Angular a pretty much good choice for others. That's what I would say.
So from what you are saying, I see that Angular is a really great choice for people who want to use a framework that is really stable.
Yep.
That you don't have to worry about the fact that okay, there will be a new release, they will be experimenting with something. No, they are they are more looking at the at others, how their experiments had finished, and if it works, hey, let's implement it. If it didn't, yeah, let's wait for something for something better. Because as you mentioned with the build tools, like everyone right now is switching to Vite,
Yeah.
but not Angular. Angular has its own way, but probably in there is a chance that in a few years, when everyone else will see that okay, Vite was a good choice, yeah, maybe let's do the same.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like Angular uses it right now. Like it's not
Mhm.
only Vite, it's ES build plus Vite. So ES build for like your production builds, and Vite for,
Mhm.
I think they use it for SSR, because yeah, that's the only place where it is being used. But yeah, as you said, like in future maybe it's possible, because there are community members in the community who has been experimenting with Vite only. So, for example, there is a framework called Analog JS.
Mhm.
by Brendan Roberts, who has been experimenting with Read. So he actually built the tool like because Angular gives you flexibility, like you can bring your own tool as well. I mean, that's possible, but of course, a little bit complicated maybe. But Brandon figured it out, and then he built his own framework similar to it's a meta framework basically. So like Next.js and Remix, but for Angular. So he figured that out, and now he's doing that. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, and if you would think about what is, in your opinion, the biggest pro of using Angular?
Biggest pro. Okay, so there are so many, so it's hard to actually.
Yeah, that's. I saw that you have quite a lot of points, so I decided, yeah, I will kind of complicate the question. Just one, like the biggest selling point when someone asks you, okay, why should I use Angular?
So I would say the biggest selling point is you can be easily upgraded to the latest version, because with Angular, I mean, it's also one of the main focus area of the Angular team is there should not be any breaking changes. So if there is a breaking change, so developers should not do it manually. So there is migrations available with every version. So there is a page called I can share it. It's called update.angular.io, and it's okay. So I can share it with you. Is there a chat option?
Either in the, I mean, the best way,
Okay.
maybe you can share the screen. Yeah,
Yeah, I know it's okay. I mean, if you can see the code, it's just a link. So I just shared it privately with you. Maybe you can share. So there is a page called update.angular.io, and if you go to that page, like of course, if you're a new developer who is coming, let's say who joins the team, and he is now somehow responsible for upgrading the framework, right? Because it's something which will happen with every framework, right? I mean, every framework has to be upgraded at some point of the time in companies, right? So with Angular, you have this page where you can select from which version to which version you want to migrate, and it will give you a list of steps which you should follow, and then you are migrated to the latest version. So it's like if you have even big projects, like this is not something I'm talking about for small projects, right? I mean, people have been using this migrations in bigger projects, like with 100K lines of code, and it works. And you don't have to like make any changes manually. So for enterprises, like, or for anyone, I mean, I'm not only talking about enterprises, but even for startups, right, who wants to actually upgrade to the latest version as soon as possible, you can just run this command and that's it. Now you are using all the latest versions or all the latest functionalities of the framework. So you don't have to worry about it. I mean, only case where I have found it a little bit challenging is using third-party libraries. So
yeah, I just shared the screen of how this update.angular.io looks like, and it's really amazing. So I can select from 2.0 to 17, so the latest. Let's say my application is quite basic, and so I get the whole short list on which things I have take care of, and I can just check them out. And how much time is between the release of 2.0 and the 17.0?
I mean, it's been now 2016 and now 2023, right? Seven years.
So let's be honest, this is quite a short checklist to have when we look at how much time has passed. And let's be honest, in IT, every year, during 1 year, like gazillion of things can happen. So this is really amazing. I'm really fascinated by. Okay, I can switch to, for example, to Yarn. Okay, and let me just check, just out of curiosity, for example, the advanced. Yeah, okay, now it got a bit longer, but I can imagine that there are many things about validations, about service worker, everything. But still, this is like from the oldest almost version to the newest one. And if we just compare, like, there's 18.
So 18 is the next version, so they keep it, but there's nothing actually, basically.
But in general, I assume that at some point, okay, so but at some point, probably even before the release, some nodes start appearing, right? So I can kind of start preparing before.
No, generally they don't. So
Okay.
right. So I mean, once you have 18, I mean they will publish it like what can be done. For example, right now 16 to 17, you can see some steps. Uh, but like a recommended way is always one version. Like go from 3 to sorry, there is no Angular 3 if you're not aware. So there is no Angular version 3. So you can go to 2 to 4.
Oh, right, there is no. So this is something like we discussed yesterday about what happened to PHP 0.6, right?
Exactly.
So this is also, but to be honest, this is really amazing, and it would be great to see that that other frameworks would have something similar, because it would help a lot. I mean, everyone, because it's great when we see all those changelogs and everything. That's cool. But having such a list you can just follow step by step, amazing.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Today, with all this AI and everything, I'm sure that someone will build a tool that you will just send the list or just select, and it will start changing.
There's something actually if you there's something called Nx. So Nx has is its own AI chat. Hey Alien, Alien is in chat. So I was about to actually also yeah. So also about to mention s02 had something similar. So s02 just launched s02j/upgrade. So you can just write s02j/upgrade and it will upgrade your s02 version to the latest version. Like it will run all the migrations and everything. I think yes, or more frameworks should adopt it in future. Like developers should focus on writing code, not worry about like what you're how to upgrade to the latest version. Right? Those are
and of course, Alien. Yes, we have.
yeah, because I remember like seeing it on Twitter before I left Twitter. So now I liked it because I have my own blog on s02 and I wanted to upgrade it. Now I can easily do that. But Nx, I was talking about Nx. Nx also has something called Nx/AI chat, right, where you can actually talk about like give all the questions to this AI chat, and then it can answer. So I asked like Angular team like to if they can make it possible in next version, like for docs. So you have a docs where you can just say, okay, I want to do this, and then docs gives you everything. I think that's something will be pretty much interesting to see, like more probably docs adopting that what NX did. Maybe a good thing for s02 as well. Maybe if they want to take some inspiration from NX, because of course that's again one thing where people like invest a lot of time, right? Especially developers like thinking about okay how to do this and how to do that. And if docs can answer everything, I mean, we will rely more on less on Stack Overflow and everything, right? You don't have to show hundreds of options because most of the time your issues can be resolved if you read docs. And if docs becomes better.
But who read docs? Let's be honest. Who read docs? I mean, this is the last result. I mean, every time when I order something from IKEA, first I try to do it based on my imagination, and in most cases I miserably fail. But I try. I always try. This is this. Oh, okay, so we talk about the biggest pro, and I totally agree. This is really something amazing, and everyone should think about adopting this. But also, now let's talk. If someone would ask, okay, but what is the biggest problem with Angular?
So biggest problem, I would say there was a time, like of course not now. I mean, but before Angular 13 or before Angular 14, there was a time, like for example, 2 years where things were moving slow, and which of course that was the time not many people were happy about it. Like nothing is happening, no innovation, no new features, and Angular team was really busy actually doing rewriting their rendering engine because that was becoming a problem. Angular team knew that that's a bottleneck. If we keep the existing rendering engine, we cannot move ahead. But of course, you cannot just give up on the community, right? I mean, you have to keep the community satisfied as well. So I think that was one time, not one time. I think that was year or 2 year where things went not as we expected. Like, of course, it was hard to convince even people like you should use Angular, but the question was why. I mean, what else? What new you can see which can or keep us using this framework? I mean, people were worried about even if Angular will survive. I mean, people started talking about Angular will be killed as Google does every time, right? But yeah, that was the only time where people, of course, got frustrated, and but Angular came with the bang. So once they started, like once they completed that migration, like rewriting the rendering engine, and they are on fire. So every release has so much features. Like uh, I get scared. So I was like, okay, I'm still at work. I'm still using Angular 13, and I know that now Angular 17 is released. And when I see the number of features it has, like in 4 version, so it also makes me scared that okay, how I'm going to catch up with all these new changes because they're moving too fast. So that's it. That is also a scary thing.
So again, quite similar to PHP. Why nothing is happening? Why nothing is happening? Now you're going too fast. Why so many releases? Why so many features? Why so many changes? I mean, we as developers are horrible, right? Whatever they will do, we won't be satisfied. It's either too much, either too small, either just wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But actually, the only advantage Angular has is again ng update. So you don't have to worry about it, right? For example, Angular 17 has this new feature which I will show the demo for. For example, it's called control flow syntax and deferred loading. And for control flow syntax, they have a command. So you can just run this command and then you are on latest. So your whole and you can do it incrementally. Like it will ask you like which folder you want to migrate, and then you can choose. Okay, I want to migrate only this folder, and go ahead and go on production and then do another folder next time. So that's really amazing. I mean, even though it is using so fast, but it is also making sure that the developers don't have to invest much time doing all these changes, and they can just reach there faster as well.
okay, yeah, I mean, I can really understand from everything you are already saying why so many enterprises decided to go with Angular, because all the actions, um, even implementing new things are, because as you said, Angular isn't breaking stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Are really with those big enterprise applications in mind that you just can't rewrite just like that with one click. That things where things just take time, like it just happens in every enterprise corporation. And tell me, who, or maybe a different question. If you would compare Angular to other frameworks, you already mentioned that it's quite similar to .NET, right?
Okay, so not similar, but yeah, some adoption maybe because of course, for example, dependency injection, it was there from day one, and it was already there in Java and .NET, like from the backend frameworks, right? And even HTTP service, for example, .NET also has something called HTTP, and when Angular team decided that okay, they will have something that they already had HTTP from day one, even it was in Angular JS, so it's not nothing. So uh, I would say maybe adoption, maybe some inspiration, but not everything. So of course, we we should not like. Of course, we are writing at the end. You are writing front end code, right? So of course, it should be like. Of course, you're taking inspiration when you're writing your front end code. So there are a few features which is very similar to what is available in some backend technology, but that might be just some inspiration, nothing else. Just to hide the implementation, right? So
yeah, because I always heard that many people who started working with Java switched to Angular at some point because it felt quite natural. Not sure, because I only had Java during my university time, and It was a scary thing.
I mean, yeah, I can understand the point because, of course, I was also a .NET developer, and when I tried Angular, like I felt home because of TypeScript. So, because if you remember,
Mhm,
like Angular was the first framework to come up with TypeScript support, and as I said, like people were really against it. Who uses TypeScript and why TypeScript? So people never wanted to use it, and they of course chose other frameworks uh, rather than going with Angular. And after a few years, they realized, right? They realized, okay, I think TypeScript was the good choice. So this is also where I like, as I mentioned, right? I really like Angular team that they think through
mhm,
before adopting any technology, right? They thought about TypeScript in 2014 when even probably TypeScript was even not giving that much attention to TypeScript. So it was just uh, Microsoft and Angular team using TypeScript. And uh, I think a few years back, Microsoft actually wrote a blog. TypeScript team wrote a blog, and they gave a shout out to Angular team for
mhm,
opting the framework. So it got to the point where it is right now. Like it's preferred choice for any front end developers. But yeah, I mean, TypeScript was, I would say, it's a typed language, right? I mean, it's like more
mhm,
like Java and .NET because they are also typed language. So if you're coming from someone is coming from Java or .NET background like me, they think, oh, this is very similar. I mean, of course, it's not everything which is similar. I mean, I have seen people writing so much complicated code because they think, oh, I wrote it in Java, so it should work here. But that's bad, right? So good. I mean, yeah, you feel home if you're coming from Java, but nothing else. I mean, that's you should like keep in mind that at the end, this is a front end code, and you should not bring the complications as you do in your back end code.
mhm.
Easy
Okay.
to, I mean, easy to
Okay.
learn for like someone who has experience with typed languages.
Yes, which kind of I mean, on the other hand, right now I can see that more and more languages are focusing on being typed. I mean, again,
Mhm.
even PHP with 8.1, if I remember, the strict option is going to be, I think, the default one. So, which is quite interesting when we look at many framework and many languages that start as though those simple, easy language to that you can learn quickly. At some point, they get to the I mean, more and more bigger companies start to use them, and the more complicated the applications, the bigger chance that having a typed application would be a better idea
Yeah.
rather than just let's kind of call this cowboy coding, because it's cool, it's nice, you can do everything quickly, but at some point there is a bigger chance that it will break. And of course, this is the moment when you introduce more and more of those type language features, and you start to hear that some people who went for this language because of its simplicity don't want to use it anymore, and the circle continues. Someone creates a new framework that is very easy to start with, isn't typed because it has to be easy and everything, and after 3 or 4 years
Yeah, they keep adding features and then it becomes bloated as well. So
exactly. So this is kind of the cycle that happens very often. And out of curiosity, what feature would you really love to, or what features would you really love to see in Angular in the upcoming years? What things do you think are missing, or maybe some of them, like your wildest dream about what it would be amazing that Angular would have?
so few things which I really wanted, Angular team is already working on it. For example,
You are breaking a bit. Okay, you
uh,
broke for a moment. You frozen.
oh, okay. Oh, sorry. My
No worries.
so I can see this. Yeah, it's just moved on to Wi-Fi. Okay. I mean, I was talking about look. There are a few things which was already in my wish list, and Angular team is already working on it. So Angular got signals 2 versions back.
Mhm.
So in Angular 16, uh, Angular signals were introduced in developer preview. and now in Angular 17 they are a little bit stable. So Angular has this change direction strategy, which works in a very strange way right now. It relies on another JavaScript library, which is of
Mhm.
course written by Angular team. Uh, so now to remove this dependency, the next step was actually to introduce local change detection. So it means every component having its own change direction, right? So
Mhm.
which can be achieved using signals basically. And Angular team is already working on it. Then we had forms. Now Angular team also is making some. I mean, probably there will be an RFC soon that forms can also work with signals, and signals based component where you can have like Angular uses this input and output strategy, like, or you can say input and output properties, by using which multiple components communicate with each other. So that property, input and output property, is not reactive basically. It's like, of course, you can define it as a type as input,
Mhm.
and for output you generally use event. Now that can be signal based as well. So these are actually a few things which is in my wish list. And yeah, I mean, I can see some progress being made on GitHub, on the repo. So let's hope. I mean, once they bring up all these features, I mean, it's going to be massive. I mean, massive win for everyone in terms of performance as well.
Okay, that's great. And of course, this will be this moment when again many developers will say, "Yeah, Angular is adding new stuff too quickly, too much." Right?
Yeah, but as I said, like no breaking changes. I mean, and developers will still
Amazing.
get a migration probably, and then they can migrate to the latest code. I mean, with signals, the thing is, of course, there is no migration for signals. I mean, you have to migrate by your own, but it's like backward compatible. So the old code and new code can still like work together. So it's not like breaking change, right? So if you're bringing something new, but you're also making sure that the older code works, that's not breaking change. I mean, yeah,
This is really
uh,
amazing. I mean, this
yeah,
is really amazing, and again, from the especially from the enterprise perspective, it's like the most important part, right? Because very often you have to add features, not spend time on fixing stuff up, just to be able to update stuff. And thanks to this, you can still be up to date with the Angular versions without worrying about it. Just not using some stuff or using some older things because we use it since some version and it will work. Is it really? This is. It really talks to me as one of the as you mentioned one of the biggest selling points of Angular. I can
yeah,
really imagine why. I mean, let's be honest. There are so many things happening right now. Like it's really difficult to focus on everything, and uh, having this thought that okay, but whatever happens, I have this one framework about whatever happened, it will still work in some way,
true.
and this is something really important in today's life. It's a bit of a philosophical thought, but still. uh, okay, and you mentioned something about that you have some code to show, right?
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think that
actually,
this.
let me share my screen. This is okay. What happened? Share. Oh, interesting. Why I'm not able to share my screen?
I can tell you that you are sharing even two of them,
Okay.
three of them.
Oh,
And maybe try to share a window or something like this.
okay. So I just end my shares. Now I'll just do
Okay.
it again. So let me. Okay. Can you see it now?
I see it, but I still see that you are kind of showing us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'll
Okay.
switch. So
Okay. So I can see
now,
it.
now you can see the code.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I just created this new Angular application with Angular 17, the latest version. So I think it
Mhm.
should be here 17.0. So this is the latest version, which is, I mean, 17.0 point something is the latest, but yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
Let me know if this is visible. Just not
It
visible.
is.
Okay, cool. So I just created this new application. So Angular had this thing, right? So if you remember, Angular was mostly focused on Spark, so single
Mm-hmm.
page applications, and people, the other frameworks, for example, Next.js and Remix, they were getting good adoption from the community because they were SSR first. So as soon as you start, you get everything. You just start like serve your application and server side rendered. And there was an ask by the community why we are not SSR first. And now finally that question is answered. Now Angular uses SSR as, I mean, you still have an option if you want to,
Mm-hmm.
once you actually initialize a new application, it will ask you a question whether you want to enable server side rendering or not. Angular had server-side rendering before, but it was an optional. It was
Mm-hmm.
even this SSR package actually lived outside of the Angular framework because
Okay.
Angular was mostly focused on Spark. And now they actually, with Angular 17, they brought that package into the Angular. So you can see there is a new package called Angular SSR,
Mm-hmm.
which was not available earlier. So uh, and so let's serve this application. So I'll just go back and say run start. So for local, I mean, just no for now. So, so it's building the application, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
show a few things. For example, of course, now it's working on localhost 4200, and um, let's see. So this is the new website. I mean, there are some changes on the landing page as well, and you can see this is SSR. Like you can see all the contents which is actually available here is rendered here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an SPA where you just see the tag. You actually see all the tags which is rendered on the server. So
Mm-hmm.
it's now SSR first, and one of the problem like for adoption of Angular in past was this bundle size. So there was a time like this bundle size was just just think about it how much it can be. It was like 350 KB, 350 KB for a new app. Like once you
Oh
start.
my.
So of course, the people are like, "Well, 350 KB. What is that?" I've just what you see here is like, of course, like few tags and nothing else. Why we should pay like this much huge price, right? And other frameworks like that, they were really tiny, of course, but once they grow, actually, for example, you cannot do anything with React, right? I mean, by just using React, what are you supposed to do? You have to bring like your router, you have to bring forms, and then it becomes adding some code to the bundle. But it was like, okay, people always used to compare that, okay, with React, okay,
And I think you froze again. Or
so
is it me? Oh, okay, I can. I think you unfroze, or was it me? I'm not sure.
okay,
Okay, it's okay. It's okay
ah,
right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now they have worked a lot. Like they on tree checking part, so you can see the main bundle is like 23 KB.
Mm-hmm.
There was of course some bytes for style, and then polyfills, of course, which is needed to make sure that your code works on all the browsers. Because Angular takes care of it, you don't have to add
Mm-hmm.
any polyfills by default or by your own. So if you see, there might be uh, so SRC app. And okay, so this is something which might be hidden right now, but it's not available here. But you can add polyfills if needed, right? So this is very so SSR. Of course, now you have SSR first, so you can get this. But with Angular 17, there are so many features available. Now you have in Angular 14, actually, they introduced something called a standalone component. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like you tried Angular 2, right? If I'm not wrong. So
I, I remember the first Angular.
yeah,
This
yes.
was yes.
So for example, in AngularJS, there was a concept called modules. So you actually create a component and then you register it with a module, and then the entire module is served. And
Mm-hmm.
when Angular 2.0 came, actually there was no concept of module. The Angular team decided that they will not introduce module, but by the time they reached the stable 2.0, there was a module. So apart from component, there was something called modules. So in case you want to use a component, you have to like register it with a module. That was needed. That was needed. I mean, why? I mean, of course, there was no answer to it because, of course, it was hard to actually teach as well. Because when you say, okay, so when you launch or create a new component, new application, you have to create a component and then you have to register it with a module. And people were like, if we have created a component, why we should we need a module, right? I mean, a component is nothing but a HTML tag. I can put it everywhere, anywhere, and it should work. I mean, that's how it works in React or Vue or any other framework. And Angular needed it because you have to register this component to use it at other places. But as I said, Angular team did all the cleanup of rendering engine in those 2 years which I mentioned, and they removed this dependence where you have to actually go ahead and register every component with a module. And now the modules are optional. That's why you have something called standalone root. So it means I can just use this component everywhere I want to, just a component. For example, let's add a new component.
Okay.
So I just stop this and I can add a new component. So of course, I'm going to use CLI. So I'll say, okay, let's put it Angular CLI, and you can use generate command component, and I'll say, okay, this is home component. So now you see you have a new component called home, and standalone is by default. So whenever you create a new component, it will be standalone true. And if I want to use this home component, for example, so what I have to do is I have to go ahead and use this component. I have to make sure that app component knows about this component. So there is something known as imports array. I'll just have this here. And now my app root or my app component knows about home component. So if I have to render it, I can just take this and go to this, and I'll just remove everything which is available here and just put my new tag. And Angular also got this self-closing tags, so I don't have to do this. I can just and it's fine. So let's save this and serve the application again. And I'll talk also about like a little bit about the future. What is the plan on this name using these components? So for example, this is required, right? So you have to let the component know where you are planning to use any other component that okay, this component exists. But in future, that may become optional. I mean, it's not yet defined, but there is some talk in the community or there is some talk within the Angular team. So now you have a new component rendered here, and you can see, you can just inspect and you will be able to see, okay, this is your app home. And as I said, this is server-side rendered. So you see all the contents being rendered here. So
Amazing. Okay.
and now in future, it's not yet finalized, but in future you don't need to do this, and you can just do something like this. So home component, and that's it. You don't have to even register here, right? So you can just in template, you can just use the component, and that's it. That's the only thing which you have to do in future, maybe, because Angular team is trying to simplify the learning path. So it should be easy to learn. You should not be like learning too many concepts to use this framework. And this is one of the concepts which still exists, that you have to register the component before using it. So, but yeah, it can become optional. And Angular got signals. Now they have, I mean, signals is right now very hot topic in JavaScript community. Even there is an talk within TC39 to make signals default available in JavaScript in the browser. So like, so you don't have to like right now it's like most of this frameworks they have their own implementation of signals. So for example, Vue has its own implementation. Solid was the first framework to adopt it. I mean, there was a framework before it, but of course, Solid is where all the credit goes to, because it actually brought this concept of signals back. And Ryan Cabrito, who is like creator of Solid, he's one of the champions right now, who is helping other teams to adopt Signal, and he's also like talking to this JavaScript TC39 community. to actually adopt signals into the browser, into JavaScript itself. So yeah, as I said, like even frameworks like Vue, Solid, and Angular, they have their own implementation. Even while implementing signals for Angular, of course, Angular team reached out to RAN, and then they took this help to actually implement it. So signals make this reactivity much simpler. So for example, let's say if I have something like a list, right? So I'll just say, okay, this is employee list, and I can define it as signal. So I can say, okay, this is signal, and it is an array. So it's very, I mean, as I said, like every framework has its own implementation. So of course, it needs to be provided by the framework, and Angular has it available as part of code, but it's like very small, 2 KB probably. And let's add some records here. So on, yeah, I'm just waiting my Copilot to give me some data. Okay, cool. And yeah.
Very useful use of AI.
Yeah, especially streams, you don't have to go ahead and do everything. Okay, I wanted to format, not refactor. Okay, format the document. Okay, so we got this employees list, right? So if I want to display it on my component, so you just go and let me save this, and I can just go in here, and to actually render signals, you actually use different syntax. So you have to say your employees, and then you have to use this bracket, because signals are lazy by default. It means they are not
Okay.
specified if you don't unwrap them. So for example, you can see, okay, it tells me there are 2 objects. It means that there is an array. So of course I can see this value by using something known as JSON. And I have to add JSON pipe here. So I'll just okay, so I'll save this and save this, so we can see the records, right? And okay, reload. Yeah, so this is the data. So this is how signals
Exactly.
when you have to like unwrap them to read it. And in past, right? So if I have to read an record like this, which is an array, which is of course which is most of the data on your pages, right? For example, you don't mostly you work with arrays, right? Most of the application has a list, and then you render list. So Angular has
True.
its own way. So for example, if I want to display this, I can just go ahead and use something known as not ng4. So I'll just add ng4 here, but I'll show you the new syntax. So I'll say, okay, this is ng4. I want to use ng4, and I'll just save this. And I'll say ng4 equals to, I'll select emp of employees. Again, I have to make sure that I unwrap it. And then I can just say, okay, let's use a span. And hope this age, and do we have
There
age?
was
Okay. So now, of course, you will get this data, right? So you have this 2 records available, but this is old way. So with 4 Angular 17, I mean, you had this dependency that you have to like import this ng4 and then use ng4, and it looks not native HTML, right? I mean, it looks okay. There is something Angular is doing on top of it. Then Angular said in Angular 17, oh, okay, you don't have to do that. So now you can just say, okay, for your data, and tracked by, I'll say, okay, this is EMP, and I'll say, so you need to provide an unique key for performance reasons. So I'll say, okay, this is employee.id. And now you can say, okay, this span, and that's it. So I can just move from here to here, and
much clearer.
Yeah, much clearer. So it looks like you're writing JavaScript, right? Probably not again an HTML, but yeah, you are writing in JavaScript, and then you are wrapping your HTML code. Not like this, which doesn't look like native HTML. So I can just comment this out. And the other advantage is I don't have to import anything. I mean, it works out of the box because this is baked into sorry, the template engine. Okay, so I was not saved. Yeah. So this for loop, or you have if else, these all loops are actually now baked into the framework, so you don't have to import anything new like this. So I have like less concepts to teach as well and learn as well, because of course as a content creator I teach this, right? So if I have to tell someone, okay, you have to always remember that you import ng4 before you go ahead and use this, it's like, oh my god, I mean, yeah, new things to learn. But if I have to just say, okay, go ahead and do this, and you don't have to worry about anything else, oh, this is easy.
This new syntax kind of reminds me of Laravel's Blade, because Blade is also using this at for, they just I mean, it differs a bit, but with the using of those ads before the command names, it's quite similar. So this kind of gives you the vibe.
Yeah, even Svelte uses something similar. So Svelte template has like all this baked into the framework, and actually Andrew took this inspiration from Svelte actually. And
what's important, it's much clearer than the previous version. Because I mean, every time when you do some loop or whatever, it's really great to see this keyword at the beginning, what you are doing, for, if, whatever, and not something like, okay, I see a div, what is happening? Oh, there is something inside.
Yeah. Even you can do if, and then you can say, okay, if employees dot length is greater than 0, and then okay, run this for loop, otherwise don't. So you can also do this, right? So if you have no request to show, I mean, yeah, and okay, good. Let's see if it works. I mean, and it should work. I mean,
it works.
Yeah, so you can also like make this really easy to wrap it inside if. Earlier it was a challenge because you have to put something on top of it, another div which says, okay, your ng if your length should be greater than 0. I mean, you keep adding divs and div, which was of course not a good solution, right? I mean, there is no problem adding divs. The problem is when it comes to CSS, because
true, because you have those additional divs and everything, and because I mean, it wasn't just a div for a template. It was also a real div. There was always a wrapper around this, right?
Exactly. I mean, so you can see actually 3 divs here. So if there are 2 records, right? So
I get it. So it's so I can imagine that with a bit more complicated code, it produced so much
divs.
So much divs or any other, because it didn't have to be a div, right? It could be a section or whatever, right? But
that was
so many additional dumb objects that were, let's be honest, useless.
Yeah, I mean, there was an option or something known as ng container, which actually puts empty tag. But again, this was again a challenge, because once you want to design it, I mean, yeah, it becomes complicated. Or you want to apply some CSS, it becomes complicated. But with this syntax, it's not a problem. And again, I mean, it's not only the syntax. I mean, it's even much faster. So with this syntax, I mean, with this baked in if for switch case, actually Angular is now the fastest framework after Solid. So it's like, okay, it beats it even beats React into so many areas, and the other frameworks as well. It's not like only React, but it beats other frameworks. For example, you have Svelte, you have Vue.js, so it beats them into some areas as well, because this new syntax is also optimized. So it is much faster than, I mean, the diffing algorithm between this for and this for is different. So it makes like it makes it more faster than the previous one.
Okay. Yeah. So in short, those 2 years were really spent in a very good and productive way, as we can see.
Yeah, of course. You see all the output now. So
Yeah, I mean, really, looking at the previous syntax, especially, I also imagined kind of connecting this with Tailwind and having this a lot of classes, and you can just miss the fact that this is a loop
Yeah.
of some sorts because you just styled it with something else, and chaos broke loose.
And the other thing which is introduced with Angular 17 is deferred loading. So I'll just add anchor component, and let's see that example as well. So I'll just say home and list. So I'll just add new component called list. Okay, and let's again some accident data. So I'll say, okay, this is department. Okay. Just let's make yeah. So this is developers array, for example, and we can use probably let's use for loop and developers. Oh, okay, because I have to make it signal. So I just say this is signals of this array. Let's use the ID. So I'll say this ID and this print some value. Okay, so one of the challenge in every framework, right? So is lazy loading. So you have to be very careful, like what you want to lazy load and what you don't want to lazy load. And Angular had this concept of lazy loading, but it was only possible using router. So let's say if you're routing to a new component, I mean, you can make that lazy loaded, but not the some part of the component. For example, what in case I don't want this list to be like accessed by a route, but I still want to lazy load it because it's used probably at few places, right? For example, let's say it gets used in home. And now with this new syntax, I mean, I'll just register this first. So I have to make sure that this is registered into home, which we need. So list component is registered, and now let's lazy load it. So I can use actually something known as defer, and we can put the new tag, which is list, and that's it. So now if I run this, let's run the build, and we will see the difference. And if there is, of course, if there is any syntax error, it will throw an error.
Oh, and we can see already the lazy chunk files.
Exactly. So Angular now saw that, okay, this app list is not actually used anywhere else, and this is something which is available here. You can actually defer the component, which is standard as of now. I mean, the new component which will be created using Angular 17 basically, but not the older one. But you can see already, right? So there is a lazy chunk which is created, and now if I go to inspect and let's go to network, I'll just reload it, and you can see this new chunk, right?
Yes.
Where is that? I can search for it. So we need a list, and yeah, this is the chunk. So you can see this is the lazy loaded chunk which is downloaded now, and by default it's like it's idle. So but of course, because we have not defined when to defer it, so by default actually Angular checks if this is not being, I mean, if you're idle, sorry, on idle basically. If you're idle, this chunk will be lazy loaded, but you can also make it interactive. I mean, you can decide when to lazy load it. So there are, for example, I'll just get one called on hover. So there's one default that has, okay. So on hover, I have to give a placeholder because we have to show some text while it is loading. So this is defer and this is placeholder. So until unless this is rendered, we'll see this loading. And let's save this and run. And let's go back to the browser. Let's refresh. So you can see loading. As soon as I hover, you can see the data. and this chunk is lazy loaded now. So yeah, this
Very
is how.
simple.
Yeah,
And I must say that the syntax is quite nice of this differ, and just you are adding the action, and in this
yeah.
case you are.
I mean, you can also
So
make it on interaction. So for example, you can say on interaction. Sorry,
mhm.
on interaction, and then you can give like a button, for example, on click or a new button which is already available, and then it will be downloaded once you interact with that button. You also have on viewport. So once this
When you
element is
scroll
visible,
down to
yeah,
this,
exactly. So you don't have to write anything extra like to achieve this. This is something which people do, so probably some JavaScript and try to achieve this. Now this is all available inside the template engine itself, and you don't have to worry about anything else. So this is really cool. I mean, the new changes which is coming up.
yeah, it's. I mean, mm, also the thing that you mentioned a bit earlier about how the bundle size got smaller, because
Yeah,
now it got me thinking. This is. I think that this is also quite connected with this side effect that some frameworks started pushing for being smaller, faster. If we think Astro was one of them, Astro was one of them. Also, Eleventy. I mean, this is more of a static site generator, but they
yeah,
are also very often pushed for uh, removing of not of unused JavaScript
yeah.
whenever possible, and everything. And after Astro, I remember how Vue reacted to this, and they also started to do something to make that their software faster and lighter.
And
And from our perspective as developers and from perspective of users, this is like the perfect situation, right? Because the applications will be just faster.
true.
So yeah,
Best
it's a
time to be a
win-win.
yeah, best time to be a web developer.
To be honest, in a way, I still remember and love the years when I was able to create websites during Node using Notepad, and it was everything I needed. And right now, we have to have all those package JSON filled out with
Yeah.
libraries and everything. Yeah, it got quite complicated along the years. And one thing while we have the editor open, how does the routing looks like in Angular? Is it
Okay.
file based or is this a configuration
And
file?
so if you need file-based routing, if you remember, I
Mhm,
mentioned analog. So analog has all this functionality where you have file-based router, but in Angular you have to define it. So you have this app routes file, and for example,
mhm.
let's do it for home, right? So I can say path, and I'll say okay. Then I click on home, will redirect me to home component, right? And this is the first step, like configuring, and then you have to also, I think this is enough. And then you have to place something known as router outlet. So I can say, okay, this is router outlet, and I have to import this probably because it's not imported by default. Yeah, it's already there. So I have router outlet, and then I can put an anchor tag. So I'll say anchor router link home, and that's it. So I can now my configuration is done for routing. I can go back and something happened. Why this is home? Mhm. Okay. Router link. Okay. So because I have router outlet, I have to say router link as well because as I said, like we need to define whatever we need. So I think this should fix it. Yeah. Now you see. So this
Yeah.
is what routing looks like, and now you have home. This is the this is. I mean, I'm not sure which framework you have used, but this router link becomes href basically on the
Mhm.
back side. So yeah, so you can define any as routes you want here, and you can do lazy loading as well, which is very simple. So you can say rather than load component, and then you can say okay, this is you have to just define the path. So you can say, okay, when I do lazy loading, I mean, sorry. Okay, I get confused with the syntax sometimes. Uh, yeah. Now this will be lazy loaded. So you'll see another chunk which will be created for this home, and it will be okay. I have to remove this. And now let's go back. Localize. Go to 000, and you will see. I'll just remove this and click on home, and now you see the chunk being downloaded. So that's how this is the syntax for lazy loading your routed component. But with deferred loading, it's simpler. Now, like you put defer and that's it. So earlier this was the only way.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I must say when it comes to routing, I kind of got used to to using file routing again. It kind of gives me the old school vibe when you just created a file and that's it without any additional configuration. I mean, really, I see that over time. I'm getting back to more and more of those, let's call it kind of old school concepts that were used really some time ago. And I see that along the way, we kind of over-engineered some things, and really going back to the roots is the best idea. So I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know, in 6 or 7 years, I will be back to creating HTML websites in Notepad, because why not?
Maybe. Yeah. And this is the analog JS, right? So you see this is read powered, and of course it has SSR, SSG support, and it comes with file-based routing. So yeah, if you want,
also the SSG support. This is also great.
Because
see, yeah.
Angular already has SSR, SSG, so this is something like it takes from Angular, and on top of it, you get file-based routing. I mean, I just to mention that, but Angular can now do SSR and SSG as well, and it can also pre-render your pages. So let's say if you have some static pages, you can pre-render them using Angular.
Which is amazing and very useful.
Yeah.
And resource saving. Nothing will change on your app.
Okay, I got disconnected again.
Yeah, I see. But we are back. But like I said, yeah, it's also very resource saving, so it's worth to use static site generation whenever possible. So that is true. Okay, so I think it's time to wrap up, because in short, you shared a lot of knowledge. I really learned a lot. So now I feel that I understand what is happening in Angular much better. So yeah, to kind of wrap up, like I already mentioned, the thing that really impressed me is those upgrades. This is something truly amazing, and yeah, this the thing that we already mentioned. Everyone should have something like this, because if you want your software to be used by serious companies for serious projects, it has to have something like that. So yeah, that's amazing. Also, what I must say, and because the thing that always kind of scared me about Angular also was the fact that it was so, let's use this word, corporate. And I still see that there are some parts, but this is the good part, that the Angular team is kind of fighting with all this additional code when you have to import here and add those modules and everything. So it's still in some places a bit, let's call it, overcomplicated, because this is, on the other hand, I understand that it happened for a reason, also because the team is opting for all those non-breaking changes. It's probably a lot of those decisions is historically based on something. It had sense at some point of history, and because of keeping this, it's not that easy to just remove some parts, because it is as it is. And but still, all those things that you showed, you can already see that the progress is huge in making it just simpler. So that's an amazing thing, especially if we look at really what is happening right now when and more frameworks are concentrating so much on the developer experience, on making it simpler. So yeah, I would say it's not an easy time to be a maintainer of a framework. I mean, you have a lot of work, a lot of competition,
True.
and everyone is implementing something quite interesting. And this is probably the typical reaction. Hey, we saw that, for example, the Astro team just implemented something. When do we have this also in our
Yeah,
framework?
yeah, true.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't look that scary as I thought, and that's and that's really, and I think that's really good. So I probably will have to give Angular a chance, especially with all those new features.
Yeah.
So yeah, you kind of convinced me.
Yeah.
To
I mean,
give
of
it a
course,
shot.
if you need file-based routing, just reach out to Analog because it's Angular plus like file-based routing and everything. You mentioned Wheat, so it also uses Wheat. So yeah, that's something we can you can do. And regarding those imports, right? I mean, I love those import because it's easy to refactor your code. Let's say if I want to find where
True.
is home component, I can just search by class name, and I know like wherever it is used. But that's why Angular team is not planning to actually just say go ahead and say app home and don't worry about like imports. They're trying to match the naming convention, so it's still easier for me to go ahead and find those instances where it is used.
True.
So that it was there for a reason. I mean, as I said, like of course there are things without. I mean, of course, apart from module, but there are things that still there because of some reason. Otherwise, they can remove it.
Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, this is the thing when you try to maintain something without breaking changes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's difficult, though, and it also involves some trade-offs that you can't move with some things faster. I mean, it was also a great discussion about node versus bun. Why
Um,
does bun can do some things? Because it's new and it decided they don't care about some
the
part
whole
of the
thing.
community,
Exactly.
and that's it.
Yeah, true. And they have a lot
And
of money.
yeah, and now everyone is saying that ban is quicker. Yeah, it is because that's
I
obvious,
know.
because they don't worry about some things, and the node has to keep it less breaking,
Exactly. Yeah.
less backward
And
breaking. So
yeah.
and then I also see that here we can see how important the backward compatibility is. And I mean, I still don't think it's um, I like to use this phrase of like paranoid backward compatibility when I talk about WordPress, because WordPress is one of the examples of. We just recently moved out of PHP 5.6 at core, so the whole team was making sure that the application runs on so many years of PHP that it's almost impossible to do, but we did. Why? Because of, I don't know, 4 or 5% of users.
Oh,
So yeah, it's. But on the other hand, 5% of WordPress users is quite a lot. So I
yeah.
understand. I really understand why they cared about everyone. But yeah, so Santosh, really big thanks for sharing all your knowledge, for explaining everything about Angular. Also, like we talked at the beginning, next time we will have a chance to meet in person. I'm taking you on a coffee tour, so you'll have you will have a chance to try some weird coffees with me. So it will be
Sure, sure.
it will be fun. You will see.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
thanks for the invite. I mean, yeah, it was nice speaking to you as well. I mean, and talking about Angular, which I love. So
and honestly, it was also amazing to finally meet each other, because
yeah,
yeah, we knew each other from Twitter,
yeah,
and why not do something together and also meet virtually face to face? So the next step will be meeting face to face in real world, and this will be even more fun.
Sure.
So Santosh, thanks again, and thank you everyone for listening to us. And the next episode will be next year, because now Christmas is coming. So I decided to skip it, and we will have just one more episode of the season, and we will finish the second season of the Code and Coffee Show. Then I will need some time to recharge my batteries, find again some amazing guests, and time to go again, right? Okay, so have a great day, everyone. Santosh, thanks again, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great vacation and happy Christmas, happy New Year. Bye-bye.